Welcome to Legacy Cast, where we talk about your story, your way, and what are you doing to make sure that people know about you many generations from now. Good afternoon, Legacy Cast listeners. I would like to welcome you to our program here, and I have a very special guest, fellow Army guy. He's still in the Army. His name is Robert Waters. Robert, thank you for being on the program this afternoon.
Hey, James. Glad to be here, and thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah. And so I'd like to, as the program name would imply, kind of get into some questions pertaining to legacy. It's like I like to always say, it's not always about money, but really the things that you're doing to make a difference in the world and telling your story your way so that people many generations from now will actually know that you were here and what mattered. So what does legacy mean to you, Robert?
Legacy to me, James, means doing something bigger than yourself, and it might sound cliche, but trying to make the world a better place than what you found it. I kind of live by that, that motto, kind of like the Army values, try to help someone if you can, be a good person. But, some people might say, oh, the Army values, you've been brainwashed. Well, maybe, but like the NCO creed, if you live by those values and those creeds, you'll never have a problem.
Okay. So, obviously you feel like that's an important consideration for people to kind of spend some time thinking about?
In my opinion, yes. I mean, it's just me, but it seems like in today's society, everybody's me, worried about themselves. If you look at norms and you look at things on social media, people looking on social media to see human suffering, to see people, right. You have a lot of these prank shots. Got it. It's funny, but sometimes, this is what we're turning into is, a society where, I'm not even going to go into what's on the news every day. But I think people have lost kind of focus about being good to each other, about, doing the right thing or trying to help people out. Even if it's as simple as saying hello to somebody or holding a door open, that might be the biggest thing in the world. If I could just tell you a real fast story, here at JBLM, Joint Base Lewis McChord, we have Waller Hall. It's where you do your in-processing and out-processing. I was dropping off a soldier. He was on his way out. He was being chaptered. He was a good guy, but he did some stupid things. I won't elaborate on that. There was a soldier coming out, a warrior, and he was part of our Warrior WTU at the time, Warrior Transition Unit, which is now the WTB, Warrior Transition Battalion, which I'm sure you're familiar with. I don't know what this warrior's backstory was, but he was pretty bad shape. I don't know if it was TBI or something. It had to be some kind of TBI or something. But anyhow, I was holding the door for his wife or girlfriend or whoever, significant other, maybe. I don't know what the relationship was. But as he was walking out, I said, "Hey, brother, how you doing? I wish you a speedy recovery and you have a great day." And he kind of bowed his head. And, I thought maybe I struck a chord, like maybe I said something that was, detrimental to him. So I didn't realize that. So I held the door for him. They went in their way. The young lady came out a minute later and said, Sir, Sergeant, excuse me. And I'm like, oh, great, I'm going to get it. She said, "I just want to let you know, thank you." I'm like, "Thank you? What do you mean?" She's like, "You're one of the first people that's acknowledged him and said, hey, I hope, hey, brother, I wish you a speedy recovery." So I kind of, to me, it's kind of like I have this little motto. Sometimes the best gift you can give someone are words of encouragement.
Sure. Yeah, it's a great story that you had there.
Oh, thank you.
So from a business standpoint, how would you say that you would correlate the legacy mindset into business?
Well, I would do kind of like how I operate as an uncommissioned officer, as a father, as a husband, as a citizen, as an American. I try to live by integrity. And that's one core value that I try all the time. As you know, if you're an NCO, if I worked for you, we were in the Army, and you caught me in a lie, I'm no good to you because you can't trust me because my integrity has been compromised. The same thing in business. There's a lot of fly-by-night businesses. There's a lot of people that sell snake oil. But if you build a business on integrity, the businesses we know like Apple, Tesla, all these companies that you look at that are high companies that people hold in high esteem, kind of like IBM used to. What do people think? They think, oh, these companies, they're brands. Their brands are worth millions. So kind of like that, a brand. But to me, you can be branding, and you can have all these social media platforms and all that. But it all comes back to integrity. You build your brand, because that represents you as a business owner. Try to provide the best service that you can, the best quality products that you can, the best service that you can. And people will come back to that. I always use Apple. I'm an Android guy myself, but if you look at the experience of what it is, it's almost like a cult following. There's a lot of companies like that. Netflix, same thing. Everybody and their mother has Netflix, but because they have good customer service, they have a decent price, and they have a great selection and all the other things that go into a good business model. With the business sensors I have, I try to operate like that. I try to over-deliver as well. I think if you do that, I've had it where I've returned people's money, and I got bad reviews on Amazon with my drop shipping business. But what I did was I just sent them, a new item. In this case, it was yoga mats. Woman got a yoga mat, it got ripped up. I sent her a new one. I said, hey, I'm sorry. She didn't like it. And that bad review turned into a great positive review. So did I take a hit financially? Sure. But sometimes you have to eat that cost because you're going to have that long-term growth, that long-term stability.
Sure. So if you're to think about your business from and its future, what would you say from a CEO standpoint that maybe 2 or 3 things are that keep you up at night about that?
Oh, a lot of times I think where a lot of my product comes from is China. So you have a lot of people in the one space that I'm in. When I first got in, there were maybe this many people, but now there are this many people. And what's happening is you have a lot of people that do some shady things. And so it's kind of that adage of one apple spoils the bunch. So you can run the best business in the world, but you get people that get burned, and then that affects your business.
Sure.
Also, too, now with a lot of the trade issues that are going on between the United States and China, that's already having a ripple effect in my business as far as being able to source places. And of course, the changing market too. Those are things that keep me up at night. But like anything, change is constant, and you got to keep on top of your game, and you always got to be looking ahead. If you rest on your laurels, you're going to get swept by the wayside.
Oh, very true. Very true. So would you say that it's important for people to create some sort of a strategy, not only for themselves on a personal level, but also their business level?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's like anything. If you don't have if you fail to plan, you're going to plan to fail.
Yeah.
Kind of like like in the Army, what did we do? We would have rehearsals. We would have, the mission brief. We would have the ramp brief. Everybody knew their place. Sure. Everybody knew what they were supposed to do. We had pace plans. And that's one of the things I love about the military is that it taught me, in a way, it's kind of a business, but here you're dealing with people's lives,
Right.
And that's one thing I always took very seriously when I was a squad leader, when I was a team leader, is that I always had that responsibility that if something went wrong, I'd have to be telling someone's parents, hey, I'm sorry, because of my lack of planning, your loved one is no longer here with us. So I never wanted to have that.
Sure.
So yeah, like, as I said, you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I think it's common sense, but as you know, common sense authorized, but not issued.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, I like that saying too. So what do you think the most common reason is that entrepreneurs do fail and or simply give up?
I think from what I've seen, these are just my observations, is I think a lot of people have shiny object syndrome, and especially, let's say, in the drop shipping space. There are a lot of people, a lot of these so-called, gurus. There's a lot of good people out there, but there are a lot of them that are showing numbers. They're making, $50,000 a month, $100,000 a month. Yeah, that's gross. That's not net. And they're showing all these numbers, and then it just happens to be that they're selling courses. You go onto YouTube, you go onto Facebook, you go onto Twitter, you go onto, Instagram, and they have all these ads. And it's a lot of times the same gurus. Well, they're really making their money from the courses, but that's fine. So a lot of people, I think, the shiny object syndrome, and a lot of people that I see, they think they're going to make all this money right away. Hey, in 30 days, you're going to make $20,000.
Sure.
Maybe
sure.
if you're really good with sales, but the reality is you're not going to be taking home $20,000. It's like anything, you have to build it. All the overnight success is just a thing of the past. And also people they're not in it for the long haul.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I typically will coach people on is when you hear those numbers, whether, somebody's saying, well, you're going to make, 50,000 in a month, for example, to use your example, then I tell people, always ask that question, 50,000 of what? It's always the of what question. So what would be some specific roadblocks that you might advise a new entrepreneur to look out for?
Overwhelm. I think a lot of people, they get too overwhelmed by all of the facets, all of the pieces of the puzzle that are there, instead of breaking it down chunk by chunk. Kind of like if you go to college, or if you're getting ready to do a task, you break the tasks up into smaller pieces. Also, too, underfunding. A lot of people think they can start a business for $10, and they don't realize there's going to be all these other things like taxes, incorporation, bank fees. Like in the drop shipping space, you have to take into consideration the amount of time it's going to take from getting your product from your vendor in China to your customer in the United States. A lot of these gurus are saying, oh, your hands off and you don't have to have inventory, which is true, but they're not concentrating all the other aspects of that. And then the end result of customer service, the customer gets damaged goods. They don't want to know that it's your supplier. They're looking at you. So I've just found, at least in my space, again, this comes down to lack of planning. People don't plan. They don't look at the whole big picture and think about it. They just kind of rush into it before having a whole total plan and contingencies of things that might happen.
So how do your values show up in your work, and how would you advise others to incorporate their values into their own business?
So kind of like any business I want to deal with, I kind of look at their mission statement. I appreciate businesses that are parent and have their mission statement out there. Kind of like, to me, a business's mission statement reflects their values. Again, as I said, with my values of integrity and over-delivering and trying to have great customer service, my opinion, you just need to have your values in your business, because it's something that's representing you. Your business is a reflection of you. So, if someone has distorted value, that, best description, that is going to hamper their business. As we said, you're a snake oil salesman. People are going to maybe not right away see through you, but eventually people are going to see through you, and they're going to just go somewhere else. The marketplaces are too competitive anymore. So, be honest of who you are, and if you reflect that and you have good values, you have good morals, and you incorporate it in your business, hopefully your business should be successful.
Sure. So what is something that you wish you had done earlier in life that you've learned now is vitally important that you didn't do?
I wish I would have maybe found a mentor earlier, and maybe did more research and did more planning instead of just jumping in. A lot of times I'll hear things, people say, oh, just jump right in. Just, you got to start. Yes, you do, but you need to do the appropriate research and know what you're getting into, know your market, know the industry, know people inside the industry. At least what I did was I looked at some of the top 5 people and kind of tried to model what they were doing. Is it stealing? You want to call it that. I'm not really stealing anyone's specific designs or anything, but it's just common sense to do what, the top people are doing. Follow the top people, get similar results.
Sure. That's a good point. So I'd like to kind of focus on some questions that are a little bit more about you on a personal level, if that's okay.
Sure. No, absolutely.